Thank you, Jade, and welcome all. We are excited to have a conversation with all of you today to get to know about Rolls-Royce, some of the experiences some me and my colleagues have had, and then talk about how you could join our amazing team. So let's jump right into it. You can see there's 4 of us on the call today, and we're each going to take some turns talking about some of our amazing experiences we've had the opportunity to have here at Rolls-Royce. But before I do that, I wanted to introduce you all to who is Rolls-Royce. So the first thing is we do not make the cars. We actually sold off that division back in the 70s. So what does Rolls-Royce do now is we focus on power and propulsion systems. So what does that mean? Well, right now it means that we have 4 main markets that Rolls-Royce participates in. So we have our civil aerospace, our defense aerospace, our power system unit, and what we're calling our 4th and newest market is new markets. So just a little bit on each of those. In terms of the civil aerospace, we have over 5,700 large engines and over 9,700 business aviations that we support in the civil aerospace division. It is almost about half of our employees globally. Looking at our defense column here, which a majority of us are aligned to. So I'm based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, at our one of our largest defense headquarters for Rolls-Royce here. So this is the area, the business that I work in. But with our defense, we have over 16,000 defense engines in service. And we service over 150 customers in over 100 countries. So our power systems division, so you may say, what is a power system? So this could be a range of high-speed reciprocating diesel or gas engines with complete power solution systems. It could be a standalone engine. It could be gensets, battery storage, and automation. So this is a big bucket here, but it's more of not away from the more of the gas turbine side and more into a power system, if you think of it in its basic terms. And then lastly, the new markets. So new markets, this is new. So what falls into this bucket is nuclear and electrification. So these are 2 things that Rolls-Royce has decided to stand out in the forefront and say that we are going to do this, we're going to do it right, and we're going to challenge the status quo and come up with better opportunities for us in both of those spaces. And both of those are key in terms of helping us with our net zero and reducing carbon footprints. So now I wanted to focus a little bit more on, okay, so I talked through the main areas. Where do we all fall in this? What are all the types of products and services? And this picture here kind of shows we're all over the map. We do something from the water to the land to the sky to even space. So Rolls-Royce has a lot of different products that we support here. But now I wanted to give some specific examples because this for me is really what makes it hit home. So this is a picture of one of our engines, on one of our engines is the C-130J aircraft. And there's 823 people aboard this plane. And this plane safely delivered 823 people out of Afghanistan during the, I'll say, the mission relief effort to save those individuals. So is it used in military applications? Yes, but in this case here, we saved 823 people and brought them to safety. Another example of some aircraft we support is the Global Hawk and the Hawkeye. We call these the quarterback of the skies because there isn't a single mission, air mission, that doesn't have one of these going out in advance or flying ahead of the, I'll say, the pilots. And what they're doing, and I have a picture of Ukraine there, is they're surveying. So you see that giant round circle on top of the aircraft. That's a giant computer. And of course, the one on the bottom left is an unmanned aircraft. So very cool technology, but also it helps keep our pilots safe when going into enemy territories. And of course, I can't forget about our naval side of the business. We actually support 90% of the U.S. Navy. But the cool fact about the Navy is our naval marine side is one of the products we make that goes onto these ships is called a water jet. And how powerful a water jet is the example I have there is it can drain an Olympic-sized swimming pool in 20 seconds. So it can move a lot of water, and we make those products right in our Walpole, Massachusetts facility. So very cool stuff that we get to support. My personal favorite is the V-22 Osprey. You've probably seen this in the Marine Corps commercials before, but with this aircraft, it is the first one in and the last one out. It doesn't care for a perfect landing or perfect conditions. That's the one that's getting in there for disaster relief, getting either people or products into dangerous situations to help save lives. So this is a very exciting aircraft, and I know we've flown this into various places so people can see it up close and personal. And then lastly, this is looking at more of the new market. So how can we power tomorrow's solutions with clean electrical power or even nuclear power? So there's a lot of projects that we're launching and starting to release more information saying, let's challenge the status quo because we need to find clean electrical or clean power that's going to support our needs in the future. So all in all, apart from those really cool examples, is why Rolls-Royce. First things first is we do amazing things. Every single person you talk to here, they are proud to tell you that they work at Rolls-Royce because of all those pictures above that I just showed you, that we save lives and we help our military go into, I'll say, different situations. The fantastic opportunity for growth space. So I've been with Rolls-Royce for over 10 years now, and I can't tell you there has not been a time where I have not been able to grow or have had the opportunity to grow. If I'm not asking, either managers or mentors are always asking you, what's next? How can we challenge you? How can we make you better? And even bosses themselves, they're not trying to hold on to you and keep you in one spot. They're trying to make you the best that you can be, which leads me into the next one, which is the working culture. So we have this high performance culture theme called At Your Best, because when you are at your best, you are going to do amazing things. And that's what we need here at Rolls-Royce. So our working culture has very much changed over the course of 10 years, but changed for the better. And you can ask any of my colleagues on the call here today, when you ask, what's your favorite part about Rolls-Royce, we all say the culture. So the next one is around the significant investment. This tells you that we're not going anywhere, and our investors and the states and the people around us are willing to invest us because they see our capability or potential of what we can achieve. And so we've invested a significant amount of money here in the US, excuse me. And then last but not least, the winning swagger. So it's not about the cockiness if we know we do cool stuff. It's about the confidence. Because again, if you are at your best, you are going to do amazing things, which gives us confidence to know that our customers are going to trust us and choose us to go help them do amazing things too. So all in all, Rolls-Royce is a great place to work because we make cool stuff. We have a great work culture and we win really cool stuff because who doesn't like to win? Okay, so now that I've given all of you a quick introduction of what Rolls-Royce is, I want to take a second to introduce all of us on the call. So we'll all take turns with our bios, introducing ourselves before we jump into some of our content. So to continue talking, as I said, my name is Lisa Engel. I've been at Rolls-Royce for a little over 10 years, and you can see my work experience there. I'm going to not talk a lot about it now because I am going to in later slides. As I said, I'm based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. My favorite thing about Rolls-Royce is the culture, as I said before. My current role is I am a defense manager of training and development. So what does that mean? I'm responsible to making sure every defense operations employee feels confident to do their job properly. That also means I manage all of our graduate and development programs for operations and making sure we have training and engagement opportunities for the workforce. You can see a little bit of my background there, but I got my undergrad from the Kelley School of Business and then my master's from the Purdue Polytechnic School. So that is a little bit about me. So next, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Ryan.
Yeah, good morning, afternoon, or evening, all of you on the great wide world. I saw somebody was calling in from Italy, so that's pretty cool. A lot of cool faces here and a lot of people, so really excited to chat with you guys. I'm Ryan, as Lisa mentioned. I've been all over the place in the past 2 years, both here in the business as a full time and also as an intern, so I can speak a lot to the early career side of things. Grew up in Virginia, went to school in Virginia. I didn't see any UVA students, a little unfortunate, but um, definitely a lot of diversity in the colleges here. So very exciting there. Graduated in 2022, went to Indianapolis to work full time. And I'm actually currently doing a rotation in the graduate rotation program out here in sunny Huntington Beach, California. So for me, it is 3 hours earlier than the rest of my callers here on the line today. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a big airplane nerd and a big proponent of designing and building and flying airplanes, which is kind of how I ended up where I'm at now. Um, Speaking of, my current position is I'm a Rolls-Royce manufacturing engineering graduate. So this is a full-time position straight out of college for most people, but it doesn't have to be out of college. And I've done a whole bunch of rotations in different areas of the manufacturing business. So you're going to hear a lot um, from Ricky as well about the grad program on the standard engineering side. And so I work more on the manufacturing side of things, and I'll be able to chat about that later. And feel free to debate me on my hot takes if you would like. So.
All right, hello everybody. Like Brian said, we're happy to have you all here today. I think it's great that you've all showed up to learn about what we do. My name is Ricky Smith. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Chatham, Massachusetts. You can see a picture of that down in the bottom middle there, over on the very east coast of the country. I went to Purdue University and got my bachelor's there in mechanical engineering last December of 2022. Rolls-Royce experience. So during my studies, I did a 3 rotation co-op, and I'm now part of the graduate development program. Both of these were in engineering. So like Brian mentioned, he's in manufacturing. Mine is more on the engineering side of things. Some hobbies, golf, ice hockey, traveling, and cooking. And that's about all I've got for now. And I'll give it back to Ryan to talk about some of his experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Ricky. So I'll go ahead and start out with my internship, which was in the year 2021. So coming out of the COVID pandemic, so to speak. Um, I worked out of Indianapolis. This is one of the manufacturing sites on in the city of Indianapolis. SCO stands for Single Crystal Operations, as the title may suggest. For those of you who are material science people, probably not a lot of you, you may know what that means, but long story short, it's a very special type of metal casting that gives our very critical components here, these turbine blades, really, really great mechanical properties. So they can resist a lot of temperature, they can resist breaking, and they are subjected to thousands and thousands of degrees of heat inside of the engine. So very important that they don't melt. So what I did as an intern was I supported their operations in making these things by doing things like documentation updates, which weren't as exciting, but I actually was able to contribute with a SPC or statistical process control digitization, which is a really, really great skill to have. Not really emphasized a lot in college, but something that if you have the chance to get a hold of when you're, I was very young at this time. It's a really great skill to have. And so I was really lucky that Rolls was able to give me a project like that that was fulfilling. And then I was able to get that kind of skill early on and was able to apply it actually later on in my professional career. So some learned skills there, and I'm going to have this on all of my slides. Coding was a big one. I didn't know anything about coding anything, and I ended up learning like 3 new coding languages that summer, which is kind of crazy. Working alongside operations. So one of the things that I love about manufacturing, and especially at Rolls-Royce, is that the manufacturing culture is very much a social environment. And so I didn't know that I would love that as much as I did, and that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at now. Is I really enjoyed that experience. And then for those of you who like buzzwords, Lean Six Sigma, that's a big one. I learned what that was, and I ended up again applying that later on in my professional career. So next one is starting into my full-time role. So this was last year in July when I started full-time out of college. HTSP stands for Heat Treat and Special Process. This is another sort of special manufacturing area, not your standard machining area like that, but more using temperature and using special chemical processes to get our parts to be even higher fidelity inside of the engine. Um, Interestingly enough, the stuff that I did was not necessarily chemical engineering or anything like that. I actually ended up doing tool design. So kind of an interesting offshoot because as a manufacturing person, you wouldn't think you'd be doing a lot of design. But as it turns out, there's quite a bit of overlap in those sorts of fields. And tool design was something that I really was passionate about because I like designing things. I like CADing. For any of you guys who like modeling with like, SolidWorks or anything like that, that was an opportunity I absolutely pounced on. And so I was able to work on a project that was really fulfilling, and it was a safety improvement, which is a really, really great thing because here at Rolls-Royce we care absolute and full paramount on safety. That is our number one concern at all times. And so for me to be able to contribute to enhancing that safety culture was really, really important to me. And I felt like I was doing real work there and straight out of college, right? Like I didn't expect to have that kind of work handed to me, but it was very fulfilling and I was excited to take that on. And so design for manufacture, like I said, the overlapping of those sorts of skills was really, really valuable to me, especially this early on. And then that the area itself was a very legacy system, which on my next slide, you'll see I'm kind of in the opposite scenario right now, but it was really cool to get some modern context behind an old school legacy system. All right, so this is my current rotation while I'm out here in California. It's not just for the beach. I'm here to work in Rolls-Royce's high temperature composites facility. I sort of went from, so the heat treat and special process, I would say, is one of the older areas of Rolls-Royce North America's facilities. And HTC is one of Rolls-Royce's newest facilities in North America. So I've seen like both ends of the spectrum in terms of the type of work that we do out here. So HTC in a nutshell, excuse me. CMC stand for ceramic matrix composites. It's a very special type of material that bends like carbon fiber, but has the strength and rigidity of ceramics and, like clay. Super, super valuable stuff to have in an engine, but it's really hard to make. And so our job as a site is, okay, figure out how to make it and how to make it well every time. So it's a developmental site, which is very different from anything else in Indianapolis. And so part of what I'm doing as a grad is large scale mechanical design involving lifting, transporting large part loads across the shop floor out here. So this is a project that it's kind of hard for me to describe how valuable it is. But it's something that where I'm able to contribute to something that can potentially hold a legacy for decades here in the business and be able to provide that sort of high quality system for years to come. And so that's something that I was very excited for moving in. And there's all sorts of different things that's going on there, but that was just one of the offshoots and sort of my main project here for these 6 months. So more design for manufacture, and TRL meaning technological readiness level. That's basically saying like, it's not 100% ready technology, so we're still working on it. And so I'm learning about how that sort of activity system works out here. And so, oh, I see somebody's familiar with CMCs. So yeah, we're also hoping that they get cheaper and more abundant. And interestingly enough, you may imagine that the reason why they're so expensive is because they're hard to make. So that's exactly what we're doing out here is we're making those cheaper, more abundant, and it'll make airplane travel a lot safer for the world. So thank you.
All right, guys. So like I said, I did both co-op and now I'm part of the graduate rotational program. So I've got 5 different roles that I've worked in with the company, and I'm just going to briefly talk about each one on a pretty basic high level. So the first one was AE 2100 project engineering. So the AE 2100 is one of our legacy engines. You can see one of its applications in that picture there is the C130J, which Lisa touched on a little bit earlier. And what I did in project engineering really was looking at changes to this engine. Those changes could be anything from changing the material of a bolt or the type of a fastener to something like changing the manufacturing method for the compressor case. So really, anytime we want to make a change to an engine, we have a process at Rolls-Royce that it needs to go through. It's a gated review process. So there's different gates at varying levels of complexity. And really the main goal of those gates are to investigate the technical and business feasibility of a change. So what benefit is it going to bring to us and to the customer? Is it going to increase safety? What's it going to do to the cost? All of those things need to be considered and investigated before you can make any decision. So in this role, I did a lot of collaboration with different teams with design, performance, test, safety, manufacturing, really every team, because we did need to look at, again, both business and technical feasibility. And this rotation was pretty cool because I got to take part in some changes to the engines that will actually go into effect in the life of the engine. So I got to make changes that really have an effect on the engine itself. So my second rotation was in life cycle engineering. E4S, I think, is engineering for service, maybe safety. But anyway, so this role dealt with a lot with the customer. So basically, we have customers who do maintenance on our engines. MRO is maintenance, repair, and overhaul. When they have questions regarding maintenance, they come to us with what we call technical queries. So maybe they were doing an inspection and saw some weird particles or some weird indication or something, and they don't really know what to do with that based on the maintenance and engine manuals they have. So then they come to us and ask us those questions. It was then my job to, again, investigate this, see if we've seen this issue before, try to determine if it is an issue, going out and talking again to a lot of different teams, mainly design and safety, to determine what we need to do with this question and the issue that they're facing. It was then my job to bring together all this information and come up with a response to the customer and send that response out to them. So this was a lot of direct discussion and communication with the customers and the ones who are actually maintaining our products. So the third one was, third rotation was actually in Bristol in the United Kingdom. And this was on the Ultrafan materials lab team. So you could see that pretty blue or sort of turquoise fan blades in the bottom picture there. Those are the new composite fan blades that we're developing for the Ultrafan. I have a background in mechanical engineering, not materials engineering, so I wasn't doing a lot of sort of heavy materials work. What I was doing more so was helping with automation and process improvement. So a lot of what they did was microscopic image analysis of the composites that they were making and manufacturing. And a lot of this was done through a software called Image Pro. And it was very, very manual and tedious, looking at microscopic images and drawing boxes to analyze different things like the void content or sort of air content of the composite. So it was my job to automate that. So I wrote a lot of scripts using the Image Pro software package and macros. And I was able to either fully or near fully automate this process. So that was a huge cost and time savings benefit to the company. So it was taking something like 10 hours per blade initially to do this sort of manual, tedious work. And after I made my improvements, it was down to something like 20 minutes. So, it's almost 10 hours of savings, and there's hundreds of blades a year. So it's really a pretty significant time and cost savings for the company. I also learned a little bit about composite materials and how they're sort of manufactured and fabricated, and then just a little bit about composites in terms of like void content and things like that. And now my first GDP rotation, or Graduate Development Program rotation. This was in the Performance Core. So a little background of how our organization is structured. So we have core engineers and deployed engineers. Deployed engineers work on specific programs, so like the Ultrafan or the AE 2100, whereas the core engineers are there really more to support the programs. Typically, they're more subject matter experts, and people come to them with questions regarding their program. So they have a lot of sort of general knowledge and not program specific knowledge. So what I did here was created some engine performance models or thermodynamic models using a software called NPSS. It's Numerical Propulsion System Simulation. This software is actually used by all the big players: Rolls-Royce, GE, Pratt & Whitney, NASA, and it's basically, I don't know, plug and play is really the right word, but you can see each of those components there. You have, the compressor, the burner, the turbine. Each one of those can be put in its own little box and its own little black box. There's air coming into it. It's got a certain temperature, speed, things like that. And there's air coming out of it. Everything else is just kind of a black box. So you can kind of put all those components together and actually come up with an entire engine model. So you can have air coming in the inlet and air going out the exhaust, and you can actually determine the power generated by that engine. So it was my job to actually put together one of these engine models entirely. So just as a GDP, I was able to do that. This was for our RR300 engine. And yeah, when you're actually putting together the model, you do a little bit more of the sort of white box stuff. So for example, for the compressor, you look at compressor maps and tables and efficiencies and things like that, and then kind of package it in that black box and then put everything together. So this was really cool. I got to see all different parts of the engine, learn about how effective different components are and how the effectiveness changes the overall performance of the engine. I also got to play around with the engine and give it different inputs, different Mach numbers, so speeds of the aircraft and things like that, and just see how the engine performs. So that was very cool. And yeah, I think that's it for this one. Next slide is B-52 or F-130 control system verification. So our F-130 is the new engine that's replacing the engines in the B-52. We're creating a new control system for that, and my job is system verification. So really, what could break the engine, and more specifically, what could break the control software? And it's my job to make sure that it doesn't break it. So any software that we have should be, super secure, super safe. If one thing fails, it shouldn't take down the entire system. So it's my job to make sure that is the case. This entails a lot of writing test procedures and scripts based on requirements given to us by the customer, as well as requirements that we've come up with ourselves. And then running these scripts on a real-time simulator. And the real-time simulator is kind of as it says, it's a real-time simulator. It simulates the engine and the engine control software in real time. So this includes a thermodynamic engine model like I produced in my previous rotation, starting models, vibration models, a whole bunch of different models really, to try to simulate the engine in software. It also has some hardware in the loop capabilities, so we've got some servos and stuff like that that you can really use to test the software. That's all I've got for now. I was pretty quick with that. Please feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A and I'll try to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ricky and Ryan. So I'm going to talk a little bit even more high level. So I've come from a non-engineering background, so more of the business side of Rolls-Royce. Over the course of my 10 years, I have, I'll say, floated around in what we call our supply chain space. So before I go into talking a little bit more about myself, I wanted to put a plug in there for our rotational program. So both Ryan and Ricky have just spoken through all of the co-ops and the rotational programs that they've gone through. And this is a very specially designed program to help people early in their career, help get a lot of experience very quickly to help them grow and become future leaders of the company. And there's other benefits as well, because when you're graduating school, do you really know what you want to do for the rest of your life? That's a big decision to make. And what these programs allow you to do is go get those experiences to see what you truly love to do. Because again, we want you to love your job, because when you love your job, you're at your best and you do amazing things. So I actually went through our operations GDP program, and walking in, I said, I love manufacturing, on the shop floor, all that good stuff. And I said, I absolutely despise supply chain design. So I'm putting out supply maps and flow diagrams. And I did one rotation in that space and fell in love, and actually ended up doing that role for almost 5 years. And so that is the beauty of the program right there. Is it gives you the opportunity to gain experiences, find what you truly love to do, but then also give you a lot of quick breadth to help you excel in your career. So we have the same thing here as the manufacturing GDP. So our programs are structurally or standard about 24-month programs with roughly 4 rotations each, with those timings that can vary. All right, so you've seen this slide before, but the reason I wanted to show it again is because now I want to dive into my experience. So recognizing the time is I started on a very, I'll say, traditional path of I started out as a small little intern 10 years ago, going to school locally here, and then taking the chance of applying for what I considered was a dream job and getting accepted and my foot in the door. Then from there, I was accepted into the graduate development program, similar to the programs that Ricky and Ryan are today. But there was a little bit gap of time I needed because I needed to go finish my education. And so I was brought on as a contractor, so contract work until I could finish my degree. In the graduate program, I was able to experience so many different opportunities, including one of those being similar to Ricky's, where I went and lived over in Bristol, England to help transfer a program. But again, I had lots of experiences in the supply chain side of Rolls-Royce. Then from there, I did into the supply chain designer, the role that I swore I would never take, and then into a projects manager, which has now led me full circle into the training and development, which is where I actually manage all of our graduates and interns from the supply chain and operations side. So I have a lot of passion in this space. But one of the last slides I wanted to show you is kind of further explaining Rolls-Royce and supply chain, because supply chain is such a broad term. Trying to explain it to students can be tough because every textbook you read can have a little bit of a different interpretation, and every company you go to can have a slightly different interpretation of it. So I attempted to put a very generic, what I call value chain of, you have your external supply chain, you have your manufacturing, and then for Rolls-Royce's case, we have assembly. And then you have your storage, your warehousing, and then off to the customers. But as all you are learning in your educations, it's far more complicated than that. There's buffers, there's returns, there's different plants it has to go through. But the point that I'm trying to make with this slide is, where does supply chain fall in the value chain across the business? And it's everywhere. I like to describe supply chain as the nervous system of the body. So we may not be designing the parts like certain engineers or evaluating technical queries like Ricky said he did in one of his past rotations, but we're kind of in a little bit of everywhere. We're the nervous system that helps keep the body moving and getting us the things we need, where they need to go, and on time, and making sure we're making the stuff, assembling it, working with the external supply chain to make sure we time it all up, to make sure we deliver to some of those customers I showed you in the early slides, because you saw what those aircraft are capable of doing. And so the last thing we want to do is not deliver to them where they can't go survey over Ukraine, save those people in Afghanistan, go into disaster relief areas. So I'm very proud and still very excited to work in the supply chain business. All right. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mandy, who's one of our early career recruiters.
Hi, everybody. Some of you have probably seen me. I've been answering some of the questions in the chat. Like the slide says, I'm the senior recruiter for early careers. I was actually a part of the HR team with Rolls-Royce before I moved into recruitment with early careers. So I've been doing the recruitment side of things since September of 2019, but I've been with Rolls-Royce since early 2018. So just so I didn't, like the other guys, I did not, I put a few things in here as far as details about me. So I love to travel. The picture below there in that slide is myself in Morocco. I did a 20-day trip to Morocco and Portugal here recently, and am planning another trip to Greenland and Iceland. I've lived abroad for years, and so decided to come back to Indianapolis. I'm originally from Northwest Indiana, about 15 minutes from downtown Chicago. So love to travel. The pup in the picture is my dog. I'm a big dog person. Never thought I would be until I became an adult, to be honest with you. And one of my favorite things about early careers with Rolls-Royce is, Lisa touched upon it with the working culture. I love seeing our candidates come in and watching them grow. So if they come in as an intern or a co-op and move into a graduate program, or even just seeing those who might not have interned or co-opted with us and come in as a full-time hire, seeing them go through their rotations and seeing what they're doing with the company. So Ricky and Ryan, I don't, half the time, I don't know what they're doing. So it's kind of cool to see what they're doing and what they're accomplishing in their GDP programs right now. So that's a little bit about me. But okay, so as far as the early career recruitment process, right now, if you look on our career site, we also do hashtags for way up. So most of those carry over to way up, so you're notified as well, so you can apply through our careers page. But we've been posting internship and full-time roles since the beginning of September, and we'll continue to post throughout next month. And some of the full-time roles you'll actually see us post into November. Each posting usually goes up for 2 weeks. Sometimes if we feel like we need more applications, we'll post a little bit longer. But overall, the process, just so you know, the process does take some time. So to give you a little bit of a background, when a role is posted, if you can anticipate that it's at least 2 weeks long, and then my team is behind the scenes sifting and reviewing resumes against the job descriptions and the qualifications. And so when they review those, they have to reach out for an initial interview, which means that it's called a screening. So the initial screening call, then that will progress you after that, however that goes. It then moves your resume on to a hiring manager, and then there's final decisions that are made as far as final interviews go. And the whole reason why I'm telling you this kind of very short clipped version of this, is that the whole process in general can take 4 to 8 weeks. It just depends. So I'm telling you because I don't want you to panic if you don't hear back within an initial 2 weeks. Sometimes with the amount of openings that we have, it does take us some time to get through everything. And the amount of candidates that we have apply, it takes us a lot of time to get through everything. So at a very minimal information, I guess I would say, is that you'll continue to see internships and full-time roles, GDPs like Lisa, the graduate program. You'll see, like Lisa mentioned, that some of them are posted, some of them will be posted here at the end of this month and into October. So lots of opportunities. If you have any questions, the early careers at rolls-royce.com. That is our early careers team inbox. So I work that inbox with the other recruiter on my team, Maddie. And so you can email any questions you have there or any concerns you might have there, and one of us will answer you. You can also go to the careers page and you can register for our talent pool, which also helps you receive notifications on different roles if you meet the criteria for whatever roles we're posting that week or within the next few weeks. One thing I definitely recommend is always checking back to the website, because sometimes we'll post 1 or 2 in 1 week, and then it might be a couple weeks before we do a new posting. It all depends on how quickly a hiring manager might get back to us with the details that we need to post a role. So always check back. That's what I tell people, always to check back. And if you have questions, definitely email us so we can respond to you. I think that's really all I want to say for that, but yep, for qualifications and process. So I kind of went over this a little bit. This just gives you more detailed laid out, because I know I talk very fast. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more information. You can actually read this on the screen. One thing with these qualifications in the process, one thing I always tell candidates is make sure that you're reviewing the job description. The job description is like a treasure map. So in that job description, it'll tell you what the role looks like, what area of the business is looking for that role, what the qualifications are as far as citizenships, GPA, what kind of majors they might be looking for, any kind of information like that. I would definitely treat that job description as a treasure map and take a look at it. I would not recommend applying to absolutely all jobs that come across. Some candidates definitely do that, which I can understand, but I would really pay attention to the job description and if you qualify, as well as if it's really of interest to you. I wouldn't just apply to something to apply to something. Make sure it's something you're passionate about or something you would like to learn about. So this process, like I said, could be 4+ weeks depending on what information we get from hiring managers, scheduling, because it's not just our team it's not just our team working on it. We're dependent on candidates to schedule interviews, hiring managers to give us information and schedule their interviews, different things like that. So we definitely ask for your patience, but that early careers email address, if you need an update or if you want anything, feel free to use that email address and let us know how we can help you. We have some questions. I don't know if we're going into Q&A, if you guys want me to read some of these questions to you, or.
So I stopped sharing so we could, so I could see the Q&A, so we can kind of jump on into it. Mandy, not to put you on the spot, do you want to help us take the lead with what questions we should answer?
Yeah, sure. I will tell Marcos is asking me about where I lived. Marcos, I lived in France. I actually speak French fluently. And so I lived there and traveled. I've traveled all over the world, to be honest with you, because of my love of living over there. As far as opportunities to work abroad for Rolls-Royce, there might be future state as far as getting a role here, like the GD, like you saw with Ricky, he did a co-op rotation in the UK. But Ricky, that might have been before COVID, I'm guessing. Maybe
Pretty much during COVID, but I think it was a
COVID.
pretty unique situation.
Yeah. So I will say, Marcos, for the most part right now, since COVID, we haven't offered international opportunities. Now the UK team, they definitely might have some on their website that you can apply directly to. And but you just again look at those job descriptions and make sure that you would qualify. I don't know as far as visa sponsorships what they do. So you would have to double check that. But as of right now in the US, we currently are keeping things domestic. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so I have somebody asking what the Skill Bridge program is. This, as far as I know, and I didn't catch this on your guys's presentations. The Skill Bridge program that I know of was something that was years and years ago in Crosspoint, but it's not something that I know. I don't believe that we've offered recently, or if we have, I haven't been involved in that, so I'm not sure.
I have not seen anything on that to my knowledge, but
yeah, Alex, I don't believe that's a program that we have any longer. I haven't seen that program in the 5 years that I've been recruiting, so I'm not sure if that's something you heard through somebody else. If it is, or if you have more questions, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and email earlycareers@rolls-royce.com, and we'll see if we can figure that out on the outside of this presentation. Jonathan is asking, I have had a lot of exposure to welding engineering, and is it something that it's something that he has a lot of interest in? Are there departments within Rolls-Royce that deal with that side of engineering? I can say materials sometimes has it. Our materials sciences and materials engineering sometimes have that exposure, but I don't know about other areas.
I'm not aware of any welding engineering groups or departments, but there are definitely welding specialists, both in the actual function of like we have world-class welders. It's kind of insane what they're able to do. And there is quite a bit of engineering that goes behind that because a lot of what we do is manual welding, just due to the nature of the components we're making. So whether we are doing development in welding, not quite sure about that from an engineering side of things, but I do know that there are engineers whose job it is to oversee the technical proficiency of the welding groups, who do the actual welding, as well as of course, the welders themselves who are extremely technically proficient. So both ends of the line on that.
Okay. We have another question that says, does the GDP program fit a PhD student in computer science? If yes, can they join this program before graduation, considering that they're still in school? I can answer part of that question, or I'll let Ryan and Ricky and Lisa chime in, but the GDP program is a full-time role. So if you are enrolled in school, you would have to do it outside of work hours. Most of the programs, you're expected to be here in Indianapolis and on site. So that would be up to you if you wanted to do a school schedule outside of work hours, but you wouldn't be able to be a part of that program and go to class during work hours, if that makes sense. As far as a PhD student in computer science, we usually do not have PhD students in that program from my years of recruiting. Usually it's going to be bachelor's because it is an entry-level program. So I guess as a PhD student, you would have to make the decision on whether or not you wanted to be entry-level, which entry-level, is usually bachelor's degree. So if, you would just need to look at the job description and make a decision yourself, I think, as a PhD student. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
No, I would disagree with that. I think that the PhDs that I've seen have gone more for the direct entry roles than the graduate program.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I would say definitely computer science is huge at the company. I mean, in controls teams, you have computer science in terms of the software. You've got cybersecurity, data analytics, all sorts of stuff. So definitely there's roles that would fit to that.
Yes, 100%. I agree with that. Morgan, is being a sophomore too early to apply for internships? Nope, not at all. Please do apply. We definitely like the younger groups, and then hopefully we can get you to return to us for internships and then full time. So definitely not too young. 100% go for it.
Yeah, when I was an intern, we had a freshman on our team, and she was incredible. So they're not gonna worry about how old you are. They care much more about who you are as a person and what you can do. So
yeah, show us what you can do. This one's probably more so for you guys. Are there any certifications that you recommend taking that would be helpful in this job?
So I would say from I'll say the business side, the operations side that I align to, I would say not necessarily. What we really focus on is the experiences that you've had. So not necessarily going and getting certificates, because once we get you into the business and let you get your experiences, then that's when we will help and support you to go get the certifications that interest you most.
And for engineering side, I would say, yeah, probably something similar. There's not really any certifications that you would need necessarily. I think if you have a degree in engineering, you have all the skills you need, and you'll learn a lot on the job. Obviously some programming skills, Excel skills, maybe CAD, general problem solving skills. Those are all important, but I wouldn't say there's any certificates or anything that you would need.
In one of the beginning slides that had showed the versatile areas within Rolls-Royce. They noticed aerospace, which is a big interest of theirs. Will there be potential intern co-op roles posted relating to aerospace? Yes. I didn't read the whole thing. Tyron, yes. Across the board, every single, like I mentioned in my slides, the job description is your treasure map. If you look at the job descriptions, you will see different majors or interests that they're looking for, but 100% yes.
Yeah. So just to add to that, Mandy, if you saw for those 4 pillars that I showed of the business, the aerospace side, so civil and defense accounts for a little over, or just about 70% of the business in total. So I would say it's the reverse. You're going to have to seek opportunities not to be in aerospace if you work for Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
maybe able to approach this from a different angle. As a fellow aerospace major, if the person who's asking is an aerospace major, you may be asking about, is there a specific aerospace related work itself? Because yes, we're an aerospace company, but not all the work we do is aerospace engineering specifically. To answer your question, yes, absolutely. Those opportunities are there for all levels of skill in the business. So that does include interns and co-ops for sure.
That's great, Ryan. That's a good point. Is it possible to intern remotely? We have, in the last 3 years that I've done this, we've only had one department that does their internships completely remotely. Everyone else does either, it depends on like if you're working in one of the plants, you're definitely on site 5 days a week. Some of the roles do a hybrid. So they'll be remote for a few days a week and then in the office. A minimum of 3 days a week. So there is opportunity, but it is kind of minimal if you're looking for entirely remote. Are there any type of specific skills, computer systems, or applications that you are looking for an intern to be proficient on? From a recruitment standpoint, Maria, there is again, the job description will tell you what they're looking for. Usually it's not required, but preferred. I don't know if you guys want to add anything outside of a recruitment standpoint.
I would say the same thing I said before. Yeah, it depends on the job, but typically some programming skills, Office, Excel, Word skills, maybe CAD. It really depends on the role, but yeah.
Are there any roles or departments dedicated to business analytics and or data analytics?
Yes, 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 yes. So we have an entire organization, our DS&I team, that's all around data analytics, and every team you can see even within subsets of those 4 pillars, and organizations have developed their own data analytics team. So within our organization, the organization I fall under, not only do we have this DS&I team that we can pull for support, we actually have our own internal data analytics team as well. So it is everywhere.
Have you guys ever worked with software engineers who do low-level programming? How does cooperation between programmers and engineers tend to look like? I know that we have software engineers within controls. We have some, there's so many ways that you can go with this. We have some internships that have dealt with like software development or user interface, as well as like software programming. But I do not know about cooperation between programs and engineers. I don't know if you guys have any insight on that from your experiences.
Can't really say a whole lot because I don't know what it is that they do exactly, but I do know we have, like you said, on the controls team, low-level programming sort of directly with the hardware. I interact with them a little bit, but I can't comment much more than that.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a harder question to answer. Since there's so many facets to Rolls-Royce and so many areas of the business. After 5 years, I'm still learning things. So if you wanted a more detailed question or like answer, Emily, can you email me at Early Careers so I can see if I can help any more with that by doing a little bit of digging since we're running out of time. Could you provide more information on any tech program or IT related internships or entry job roles? Currently, I do not have any of these available. We have not recruited for IT related internships in the last 2 years. So I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for as far as IT goes, but that might be more of a complicated question that you might have to email us about so we can see exactly, again, like software and IT related, there's so many different layers of it. So that might be more of a complicated question that we have to answer outside of this discussion. Do you hire based off of experience or if you meet the requirements? Also, what if someone doesn't have any field experience but are still interested in working with the company? Faith, if you're talking about full-time roles, it depends on, I guess, what they're looking for. Again, the job description is something that it's a Bible. I know I keep saying that, but this is something that we work hard with our hiring managers on before we post a role. So it's not necessary. I don't from a full-time, Lisa, what do you think, as far as what you look for? Internships are a little bit different, I feel like.
Yeah, I would say we're way more flexible in that space. So again, if you're able to show the right skill sets that we're looking for, I really don't care what degree you have or experiences you have. But if I think what you have had experiences in your education will be applicable or can apply to the role that you're applying for, then we're absolutely flexible in that space. I've seen a wide range of degrees and experiences come into Rolls-Royce.
It looks like I've got 5 more questions. Should we just finish this up and then it'll come to an end? I don't know if we have a time limit or cutoff.
Sure, we can try to quickly answer some of these. So in terms of, I guess, automotive engineering, we talked a lot about the space. So the only really, I'll say, I don't even want to call it automotive, but would be in the power system space. So I would say in that space, it would be you're going to be in the either aerospace, power systems, or new markets. So nothing specific to automotive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Or I was asking about an example of an internship role within operations management, Lisa.
Ooh. So again, I said supply chain is like the nervous system of the body. So many different opportunities. You could go anywhere from logistics and warehouse management to inventory manager to being out on the shop floor around the machines that are making the cool parts. You could be a project manager working on continuous improvement and projects. You could be in master scheduling, so planning out the plan for operations. You could be in assembly. You could do a joint role that interacts quite heavily with engineering. So there is a lot of opportunities underneath that supply chain umbrella. In terms of some of the other opportunities that I listed from the side, there's the program side. So working with our end customer and developing the programs. I said I'm trying to think through all of the opportunities. You could be in the analytics side of the business, the procurement side of the business, I'll say aftermarket side of the business, the repairing cores. You could be in our services side, manufacturing support functions. It's literally, we could make almost any role there. It's just more of gauging your interests and balancing it with the business need and coming up a role that will help make you successful and be happy.
I think that's it.
Okay,
So
wonderful. So I don't know, Jade, if you're going to come back online here, but just to everyone that joined the call, we wanted to say thank you very much for letting us come and talk to you. As you can see, all of us have a lot of passion talking about Rolls-Royce. We're all very excited to be part of the Rolls-Royce team. So as Mandy said, if you have questions, reach out to that email address. Feel free to look us up on LinkedIn. And thank you all again.